If you're worried about AI replacing your job, getting left behind in the workforce, or maybe you're just super stressed about everything that's been going on in the last few years, take a deep breath. It's all gonna be fine, but we do need to learn a couple of things to make it better. Over the course of this video, you are going to learn the valuable skill of prompt engineering. We're gonna get to what prompt engineering is and why it's even important in just a second, but first let me tell you about who I am. My name's Alex. For the last 12 months, I have spent hundreds of hours prompting tools such as ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, Perplexity, etc. And I wanted to put together a prompting essentials video so that you, by the end of this video, have a couple of tools in your toolkit when the time comes to use the skill, because I promise you're gonna need to in the next few years. By knowing at least the basics of prompt engineering, you'll be able to upskill in the workforce, be more valuable in the workplace, and you'll be able to maintain the soon-to-be new standard of productivity. Over the next few minutes, I'm going to give you 5 ingredients that make up a good prompt. Obviously, there is a ton more information that we could go over, but this is the absolute essentials baked into what I consider to be Class 101. And if by the end of this video you are intrigued or want to learn more about AI, feel free to join my free AI community. Link is in the description. You'll be able to find tons of resources, more tutorials, and be able to engage with like-minded people, you know, the ones who want to learn how to use AI in this crazy world. All right, let's get into it. What is prompt engineering? Well, to understand what prompt engineering is, you kind of have to understand something first. Tools like ChatGPT were revolutionary, not just because of how cool they are, you know, it's kind of weird that we can talk with a robot now, but it's because they democratized the ability to communicate with a machine. What that means is that previously you had to learn how to code, you had to learn how to program, which are still valuable skills, yes. But now, anyone that can speak the English language can communicate with machine. But prompt engineering is the skill of being able to communicate clearly and effectively to the machine. In other words, it's the language of AI. Now, learning this language of AI will allow you to clearly communicate your ideas to the machine, and it will allow the machine to give you higher quality outputs. Think of it this way: higher quality the input, higher quality the output. If your input sucks, the output will also suck. Or as one of the master coders put it, the hottest new programming language is English. Now, over this video, I'm going to be using the example of planning a ski trip. You can do this with whatever you're trying to do. Jumping into the 5 ingredients of a perfect prompt, I'm gonna hop on my computer. We have the prompt itself, and we're gonna jump into the first step, which is giving it a role. Giving the model a role or an identity is super important. Now, this is the difference between saying, teach me about skiing, and saying, you are a professional ski instructor with 10 years of experience teaching beginners and intermediate skiers. You're the head of a dream ski trip committee and excel at planning trips for the beginner. The reason this works is because it takes the model into thinking about all of the information that it has available to it and focuses it on one area and forces it to put more brain power into one specific area, the area that you're trying to do. If you have a real estate question or are solving a problem within real estate, don't tell it to be a doctor. Pretty self-explanatory. I think you guys get what I mean. The second ingredient in a good prompt is the task. Every single person that has ever worked with this tool has given it a task. It's pretty self-explanatory that that's what you should be doing. Here are a couple of things to make it more clear for the machine and to communicate more effectively. The first one is to give it a numbered list for complex tasks. So if you have a long list of things that need to be done, list the order and how you would like each of them done. This will make it clear and give it step-by-step instructions for it to follow. The second one is to be extremely specific by what you're trying to accomplish. This is the difference between saying, teach me about skiing, and it telling you the history of skiing, and saying, create a step-by-step guide on how to transition from snowboarding to skiing. These two outputs will be completely different. The third ingredient in our good prompt is giving it context or adding constraints or limits. All right, this is a make or break. Limits and context, constraints, whatever you want to call them, I've heard them called all 3. You need to be specific about some of the constraints that you're working with. For example, if I want to go skiing and I'm planning a skiing trip, but I don't want to pay more than X amount of dollars at the resort or on the flight, I need to say that. Otherwise, it's going to give me something that is completely irrelevant to me and I'm not going to be able to work with. Or tell it that you want to stay within the United States, or maybe you want to go to Japan. Those are pieces of information that add context to the task you're trying to accomplish. This will greatly increase the quality of the output that you receive. In the example of the ski trip, we live in California. We don't want to spend more than $400 a flight round trip. Don't fly with American Airlines. I have points with Delta. And finally, United States only. You get the idea. The fourth ingredient in a good prompt is examples. Giving the model examples as to how you want the output formatted or done will make the model perform much, much better. There have been dozens of studies showing that LLMs, or in other words, these tools that I'm talking about, thrive with something called few-shot prompting, which is where you just give it tons of examples as to what you're looking for. Once you do this, it'll give it more context, more ideas to how you want the output formatted, and it'll go ahead and do that for you. Going back to our ski example, you're just gonna add example number 1, and obviously you can go down and do example number 2, 3, 4, etc. For starters, if you're doing 1 to 3 examples, that'll be fine. This is just the example that I'm giving it as to how I want my output formatted, right? So I'm saying to transition from snowboarding to skiing, you'll have to follow these 3 main steps, ... and then I'm telling it to insert examples, and then I'm telling it, give me ski resort number 1, the itinerary for that one, the price per person, and repeat the process for the other 2. Giving it this format will give it something to base its answer off of and will give you what you're looking for. The fifth ingredient in a good prompt, I told you this was going to be very easy, is notes. Yeah, pretty simple. Something that is interesting about a lot of the recent studies done on how LLMs interact with our prompts is that it has a focus or a tendency to focus more on the beginning and on the end. So putting a few important things at the very end of your prompt will make sure that it doesn't miss any of the information that you're giving it. Here's just a silly example, going back to the skiing example. We love good food and I'm somewhat scared of skiing since I've never learned. I want to spend more money on the skiing than the transportation. Now, to see these 5 steps in action, what I'm gonna do now is hop into a tool called PROMPTMETHEUS and show you the difference in how a model is going to output based on our inputs, and I'm going to show you how each step improves the quality of our outputs. Cool? Cool. Okay, so as you can see, in version 1, this is our first prompt. Teach me about skiing and plan a skiing trip for me. You might be the one that's putting this into the prompt. I hope you do not do this after this video, otherwise that is my fault. I am so sorry. And then you can see in the second version of the prompt, it's way more specific. It has the role, task, examples, context, I forgot context. Let me pop that in. It has the role, task, context, examples, and our notes, right? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna hop in here and we're gonna press execute for all variants. So it's gonna show us the result of number 1 and number 2. So we're gonna press go. We have our outputs. Let's give them a little review. So number one, remember, was just teach me about skiing and plan a skiing trip for me. Types of skiing: alpine, cross country, freestyle, backcountry. If you're looking at how to learn how to ski, that does not help at all. It just tells you the different kinds, right? Gives you some equipment, tips. All right, plan a ski trip. Let's see what it got me. Choose a destination, book accommodations, transportation, rent or buy. I told it to do it for me, and it just told me how to do it. Lame. Let's see if there's any better. Let's see. Step by step, transition from snowboarding to skiing. Very nice. Understand fundamentals, master turn techniques, common mistakes, recommended resorts. Let's see what it got for me. Ooh, nice. Check this out. So it has the place. For this one, Mammoth Mountain, California. And then it gave me the itinerary. Very nice. And then the ski resort. Or wait, I'm so sorry. And then the price per person. Cool. So it kind of followed the, do you remember the example? How the example kind of shows what we're looking for. So it followed that very nicely. Gave me 3 resorts. Ooh, Park City Mountain. Let's go. Let's go Park City. And then ski resort number 3. Right? So you can clearly see the difference, even in just this 2-minute example, 2.5-minute example, of the difference between a prompt not having any idea what you're actually looking for versus a prompt that just has a little bit more context. So there's the framework for you to be able to give a model exactly what it needs so that it can give you the best output to help you out. I know we went over everything pretty quickly, But I just wanted to do a very, very basic, the absolute bare bones of what it makes up a good prompt. You guys can apply this almost instantly. Make sure you give it an identity, make sure you give it a clear task and use a numbered list if you are doing something a little more complex. Give it context, give it constraints, give it limits, give it an example of the kind of output you want, and then make sure to add some notes at the very end to make sure it's clear for it. If you want coaching on how to upgrade your prompts even further, I have built a custom GPT to help you out with your prompts. What it does, it takes one of your crappy prompts, upgrades it, formats it very nicely for a model to understand, to make it more specific, increase the quality of your outputs. It does it all for you, and then it teaches you why it did what it did, and it teaches you how to make your prompts better. If you want access to that custom GPT, link is in the description to my free AI community, and you'll find it in the resources tab. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it. If you like this style of video, I've kind of experimented with 3-4 different kinds now. Let me know what you like, what you don't like. And as always, I appreciate the support. We'll see you later, guys.